Good afternoon and welcome to this special interview exclusive. I'm Sarah Gillingham. Nearly 75% of Edinburgh's more than 1,300 graduate students pursue their advanced degrees online. Today I am joined by Dr. John Ziegler of the Middle and Secondary Education and Educational Leadership Department and Drs. Linda Best and Kathleen Daly of the Early Childhood and Reading Department. As reported on ETV last week, Edinburgh University's online graduate programs were ranked nationally in an article done by U.S. News and World Report. Drs. Best, Ziegler, and Daly have each achieved Advanced Quality Matters certifications. Today we are here to talk about the Quality Matters organization and all that goes into achieving this national recognition. So for those of our viewers who don't know what Quality Matters is, could one of you briefly explain the organization and the process of getting your certifications through Quality Matters?
Sure, I'll take that question. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting us to talk about, first of all, things we really enjoy and the process that we go through behind the scenes, just as you do, to prepare our quality courses. In 2012, the university launched a new initiative looking at quality assurance models through continuous improvement. And our focus is to increase student achievement. The Quality Matters rubric and organization was designed to help assess whether what we are doing actually met high quality standards. So the focus group in 2012 met. We talked about how this could be implemented at Edinburgh, what might be some of the challenges, ways that it would be embraced. After our focus group in 2012, Provost Hannon actually created an online task force. Dr. Daly, Ziegler, and I served on that online task force. And it was at that time that we looked very closely at developing an online assessment process. And they can talk about that in more detail because each of us have a special focus in that development of that process. The Quality Matters is a continuous improvement model. It's peer review based. It's international now. It's in several countries. And it provides a gold standard. Standards dictate a great deal of what we do. We have standards in newscasting. We heard about gold standard and benchmarks of quality. Well, with online course development, the Quality Matters actually provides 8 standards that we look at. We look at them very carefully. So when we are thinking about creating an online course from the nuts and bolts aspect, we use the Quality Matters process as one that fit our model of continuous improvement here at Edinburgh. It's a quality assurance model, so it provides for us 8 standards with really wonderful descriptors of if you're developing an online course and we want to increase student learner engagement. These are things that best practice and research is telling us increases student achievement. So the rubric itself is based on a body of research that has shown that online course development following these standards will improve your model of delivery.
Very interesting, and you mentioned how each of you have a specific something to say specifically about that, the Quality Matters and going into it and the process of that. So if each of you would like to go through and say what you specialize in that respect, then we'll start with you, Dr. Daly.
Sure, and I don't know if there's specifically a specialization, but I think that we all come to the process from a different angle, in that we all want our students, we all put our students first in the process. And even when you serve as a peer reviewer for other professors' courses, you always look at it from the lens of the student's eyes. And so we want to improve the quality of the course for our students. We want to improve our own performance as teachers or instructors of students, and we also want to benefit the university through the types of quality programs that we put out. So all of us has our own story, and we've all been involved since that initial task force. We've worked on training our peers. We've worked through the hard process of reviewing our own courses and helping to review the courses of others. And it's been a long process, as Dr. Best said, since 2012. We've all had parts in that. And because it's continuous improvement, it never ends. And I think that's where part of the excitement lies, is that we're improving education, instruction for our students, because it's instructional design, it's instructional delivery, it's delivery of content, and then assessment of that. And then we're improving our own skills as teachers, and then we're enhancing the quality of our own program. So I think that those dynamics make it really exciting. Mm-hmm. And we touch base with the community outside of Edinburgh, because we are dealing with others in Quality Matters, as it's a national program.
Very important and very interesting that all of you bring a different angle into the process as a whole. So Dr. Ziegler, your angle, what have you experienced with Quality Matters from your perspective?
Well, as was said, I think each of us have an interest. And some of that interest is based on the content, some of that interest is based on the students and their progress. But there's many factors that go into quality, that are part of quality. Course design is one, course delivery is another, the student's role. There's a variety of things that affect that finished product of a quality course, specifically a quality online course. Dr. Daly, if I can reflect on her courses, she spends a lot of time refining and defining the rubric. So students know exactly how that will translate into an assessment, ultimately in a grade, but basically what their performance should look like at the end of the class. With some of my courses, I've experimented and had some success with videos. So I try a hybrid model in a sense, that it's not only just an online illustration of what quality should be and what the content illustrates, but it's also a portrayal of a video that can be reinforced, and they can learn that way as well. So when we go through, as Dr. Best mentioned, all the standards of navigation, of accessibility, and there's various ones that apply in different instances, then you can take a look at what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get across. Sometimes a lot of that's independent reading, and then you'll discuss it as a group. Other times it's a performance where they would submit an authentic field experience that you would assess. But I guess I find that online is quite transparent. I find that it's a lot of work on the front end, getting the course where you want it to be, because once it's presented, when the course starts, you don't make it up as you go. It's there, and then you facilitate it to make it better and try to accommodate the students that you have. So I think each of us brings a bit more to the table.
And it's very interesting to see all that goes into it. Obviously, like you said, a lot of planning. You're not just winging it as you go along. That would not be good. But part of accessibility, as mentioned in the article in Edinburgh Magazine, was the discussion boards. And Dr. Best, I know you have some experience with those and trying to get those so it's easy for students to communicate with teachers, which is obviously a big factor when doing the online component, because you're not face-to-face. So what was your experience with getting those where they needed to be?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because that was actually my research. My research focus had to do with the recent articles on how do students perceive the use of threaded discussions. As Dr. Ziegler was saying, and Dr. Daly, we want student achievement. So the learner focus, the lens of a learner, Dr. Daly is so very correct with that. And we're always improving, as Dr. Ziegler said. And one thing I'd like to add is we've all seen each other's courses. So we have been peer reviewers and peer mentors for each other. So we've actually participated in the Quality Matters internal review that resulted from our online task force. So there's strength in our collaboration. So with the discussion board, that is a time for students to talk with each other and to talk with a professor, just as we would in the face-to-face forum. So, you know, are they dynamic? Are they engaging? Is it content-based? Is it developmentally sequenced in a manner that allows the new novice, yet we may have an advanced learner that we need to differentiate? So as the instructor crafts the question prior to coming into the face-to-face classroom, the online professor has to think very carefully about posing a prompt with such in a way that is dynamic and increases learner engagement. The research we found, the students had a preference for online threaded discussions. They felt that they learned more content and were actually better able to build upon the knowledge in the following modules of learning. So the online threaded discussions were a real important part of the online classroom. But there are other tools as well.
Right, absolutely. And so interesting to see how different things work for different students. But for each of you, I would be interested to know your perspectives teaching in classroom face-to-face versus the online graduate degree programs, teaching over that medium. What is the difference for you? Was it a new learning experience just as much as it would have been for the students for you guys to format it to a completely different platform, or is it very similar?
I'd like to start by that. Dr. Ziegler just mentioned a hybrid, and that's actually how my first graduate online course started. It started as a hybrid. It was actually teaching it face-to-face on campus, but I had components of it that were in the online platform. So I had the luxury of being able to guide the students through the use of the online platform. But as technology has advanced in our society, students are so much more used to doing things online and sometimes are more adept than we are at doing certain kinds of things. So I think online learning really matches a lot with my philosophy, because I feel that I can create the same type of a classroom environment online. For example, in Quality Matters in the rubric, you want to ensure that students are interacting with the materials, with each other, and then with the instructor, just as they would in face-to-face. And so when you analyze the rubric, you were to look for those components. And so one thing that I like a lot about online instruction, as Dr. Best mentioned, when you have a good prompt, it really helps to promote discussion. But it allows you, and I'll say this analogy, to get into the head of every student. When you're teaching in a face-to-face class, you may have 3, 4, or 5 students share an idea, but rather when you are in a threaded discussion, when you are having an online synchronous or chat, you can hear the voices of all of your students and you can respond, and you get to know them very, very well as students, even though they may be 50, 100, 1,000 miles away from you. And so I think that that meshes well with my philosophy, because every student has a voice. And even students who may be too shy to raise their hand in class still feel, welcomed to participate in an online environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. The online offers them a platform to speak out and participate. Have you experienced the same thing with the online component?
Certainly, Sarah. If I could, in a nutshell, online provides a contact with the teacher constantly. In other words, no one receives a pass. No one sits in the back of the room and nods their head and follows along. Everyone participates, and that participation is assessed in some shape or form. I might even go as far to say I'm not sure there isn't anything that can be done online that could be done face-to-face and vice versa, or at least that's the challenge. There's a course that they received a seal of distinction that includes a Skype component to discuss concerning research or a dialogue back and forth with the instructor. So I require a 15-minute Skype interview with the person. And then we also break up into groups. So there's a lot of chats, there's a lot of rooms that the group work occurs. So it's not just the interaction between the instructor and the student, but the student to student, and then student to content, and then back together as a group.
Reflection's a big part of it, and your qualifications through Quality Matters as peer reviewers. We touched on it briefly, but from all of you, I would like to get how that process has helped you develop your own courses, how it has helped you develop other courses, and just because you mentioned reviewing each other's work, does that help you then with your course? And we'll start with you.
I'll back the process up in that when you are finished doing a peer review, you are given a survey, and the survey, one of the survey questions indicates what changes do you plan to make in your course as a result of your review. And so you're always looking at the lens of looking at the person's course that you're reviewing, but you're also constantly reflecting upon your own course and the changes that you would make. Either you're affirming what you're currently doing according to the rubric, or you're thinking about changes that you would make. So the reflective process is very important throughout all of that.
And helps you kind of make it better, change things that maybe didn't work so well to
It's
better
part of that
accommodate.
Continuous improvement model.
Absolutely. Dr. Ziegler, your?
Well, one simple question I often ask myself is, how do I know? How do I know what I think I know? And online learning does provide some sort of evidence. The benefit, obviously, to an organization or a university might be through it strengthens the accreditation model, or the improvement plan for the university. For faculty, you know, as Dr. Daly said, we share, we may learn something that we didn't think of concerning their course that we could apply in our own course. And the students benefit as well, because the goal, I think, in all of our courses is for students to have faster starts, cleaner navigation. There shouldn't be any questions as far as what do I do to get started. Their questions ought to be based on the depth of the content rather than what do I do next. And two, a byproduct is less frustration. You know, I look at the little question and answer or frequently asked questions, and I see over time that those questions are more based on the content and less based on what do I do. And that's refreshing and certainly satisfying.
Absolutely. And your experience with the peer review and how that has helped your
Oh, it has helped immensely. So when we talk about launching the initiative of the online assessment task force, we actually have embraced and adopted an online internal review. Now, the U.S. World News Report, Sarah, used that as one of the criteria, that we have a strong internal peer review process in order to even be considered for that recognition. And then we also use external accreditation. So Quality Matters allows us to bring in that extra piece. All three of us have seals of distinction on our courses, and Dr. Ziegler has 2 of his courses. So the rigor we impose upon each other. But it starts out after we embraced the process of continuous improvement and Quality Matters, we took our very first course, which was applying the rubric. So the rubric had our 8 standards, so we had to learn them and learn them really well. And as a peer reviewer, that's the first step. Secondly, there was course certification, which allowed us to become a peer reviewer of other courses in the nation. And then the third level of certification is the Master Review Chair, where you would organize the teams across the nation, international, who would be the peer reviewers and subject matter experts. So that is where we each have our own domain, from reading, ed leadership, counseling, early childhood, research methodology. So the three of us here collectively bring a great deal of that discipline. And
on that?
Sure. For the Quality Matters review, as a peer reviewer, I'm often asked to be what they call the SME, subject matter expert, and it tends to be for either reading or for early childhood, which is the background that I have. And it helps me, again, but going back to your question, Sarah, about helps me to look at my own course then, because I get to see courses of others, and then I get to see, reflect back on my own course. So I think that process comes full circle.
And for you, Dr. Ziegler, do you?
Well, my area of expertise lies in leadership, but leadership can be applied in a lot of different areas, such as organizational leadership, such as school leadership. There's even leadership within the counseling field as a supervisor. So to see those applications in a variety of areas has certainly been beneficial to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I talk to students, whether it be online or whether it be face to face, I challenge them to exceed expectations. And I think that's what the three of us have tried to do in regards to online. You know, certainly we could deliver the content, but can we deliver it in such a way that's future oriented, that cross disciplines, and that really truly is experiential based, so that it truly makes a difference rather than just delivers the content.
Something that all three of you have served on, Dr. Hannon's Provost Online Task Force, which actually resulted in the Quality Matters internal review process for the 2013 academic year. So I wanted to get each of your takes on that and that process a little bit more. So starting with you, Dr. Best.
Well, that was a wonderful opportunity for us to get together as a learning community. So it was a great initiative because it was cross-campus. So everyone participated from different departments. So it was very diverse. So everyone got to talk about how they might see the implementation of a new assessment. It's voluntary. So any faculty member who is, wanting to know more about how can I structure my face-to-face content? I'm teaching right now in the face-to-face classroom, but I want to, move that into online teaching. And am I being clear and concise? And is it student engaged? And in what ways? So I'm much more thoughtful, much more reflective.
And Dr. Daly, for you?
with regard to the online task force?
With regard to the online task force that resulted in the program for the 2013
Sure.
academic year.
I mean, as Dr. Best mentioned, it was a collegial effort. It was across campus. It also helped us to see that we can all come from the same rubric but still have the academic freedom to deliver the content in a manner that's comfortable for us and for our discipline. And so it became an enlightening experience for us too, to realize how we can all accomplish the same goal but in different ways.
And for you, Dr. Ziegler, participating on that task force?
When I reflect back on that, the key word to me is interdisciplinary, because there are faculty from all over the campus. And they all came together, and some were curious about online, some had reservations, and some really certainly jumped at the opportunity to learn more. You know, so as we came up with an opportunity for them to be observed by their colleagues through an online standard-based program, that certainly filled a niche that didn't exist prior to that.
Absolutely. And to finish up the interview today, you know, for a student going into a new way of learning, a new platform of learning from face-to-face to online or whatever they may be doing, what advice would you give to a student who is willing to try or would like to try the online platform for their educational experience? And we'll start with you, Dr. Best.
Well, number one, you have to be self-directed. There's a certain component to the online learning that you have to be curious and you have to be willing to explore. There are many tools that you may not have been able to use, and that's very important. So self-directed is very important. It allows you to pursue a goal you may have. So think about that. If you have a personal, professional goal where you have limitations of job, family, but you want to be competitive in the marketplace, online education is flexible and fluid enough that allows you to do that. And Edinburgh is very, very fortunate because we have accredited faculty here, which is another one of the U.S. News World Report criteria. So we have faculty credentialing and training that is not only voluntary but supported by our campus. So that is something very important. But the student, I think, would be excited, maybe a little bit anxious maybe in the beginning because there's so many tools to learn, but wouldn't you agree after day one, day two, and Dr. Ziegler mentioned getting started, so if you have a really well-designed course following the standards of quality matters, a rubric set forth, the navigation piece is there, so you do not have as many questions. So hopefully we're doing a better job of making that environment much more comfortable for new learners coming into that forum.
Sure.
And for you, Dr. Ziegler, advice for a new student?
Advice for a new student probably would be to take advantage of every communication tool. You know, it'll be listed in the syllabus. It'll be, the tools will be explained, but those tools may be as simple as knowing when those office hours are and just making a phone call as you would in a face-to-face. Maybe it's a bit more involved in the sense that they have a Skype account or a Voodoo account, and then you can check to see if they're online face-to-face that way. Or it may be just you know, an email. Whatever your preferred method is, don't be zeroing in on just one way of communicating. Take advantage of all the tools. And as Dr. Best mentioned, if it's a well-designed course, it in itself is going to avail those tools to students.
And for you, Dr. Daly?
And my colleague stated it well, but I will add, there's always a safety net. In other words, you will not fail. In other words, if the course is designed well, that holds you up. The communication with your professor and your peers, that holds you up. Then we have Blackboard Collaborate help desk. We have the university help desk. So there's not only on-campus help desk, but there are those off-campus. So there's always that level of support there for students. And because we've mentioned that they're all different, they come to us with different technological skills, maybe some prior experiences online, maybe not, we always have the supports to help them wherever they are developmentally in that process.
Would you like to add anything?
Well, just to say, just one last comment. Dr. Daly, you're so very right about that. We have so many support services here. We have other individuals who we collaborate with, our technology and communications department, distance education. So we have wonderful ways to collaborate online, synchronous through our Blackboard chats. So if the students want to talk with us in our little mini video setting with audio video, they can do that. But there are many individuals on campus in our own learning community that help us with their expertise. So we rely on others as well to learn. So students who are coming in thinking about online programs, you need to know that we are very eager to learn. So those of us that are sitting here, and we're just a small section of a cross-campus collaborators and our strength here at Edinboro in online teaching and learning.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic program, and thank you all for joining me today. I can't wait to see how much it grows and progresses over the years to come. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sarah.